Welcome back to Prehistoric Reviews. If you take a look at Invincible, both Season 1 and Season 2. I've been meaning to actually start that show for like about a while, so I did end up catching up to it during when it was like approaching Season 2's like mid-season break. So I managed to cut off from like there and been meaning to like watch that show for like a while and end up doing so, and I'm honestly glad I actually did because it's absolutely a fantastic superhero show in every single way possible. That honestly, like this show would actually just be out the MCU very much easily if it ever honestly could. Season 1, I just everything just starts from there, and I absolutely just love everything that it just manages to introduce. I love how that in its first season, it introduces us to basically very much everything that is familiar of like the superhero genre. Like everything is basically a parody and kind of like a rip-off basically of every superhero that you could ever find under the sun. And they take full advantage of it and do try and treat them like actual characters that are like very much of their original and they're very much of their own, and do try to make fun of them in the process, but also like kind of explore much more to them in this own world and the building, and actually ground all these characters into something a lot more realistic. What I actually love about this is that very much everything in the superhero world is basically kind of asking a question of how would superheroes work in like our world, and what are the consequences of that? And you're so familiarized with them that you kind of know exactly what is going to happen, but they're introducing a lot of new things into it that it actually ends up subverting a lot of the expectations that you would end up ever having of these, and it creates a lot more of an actual show that ends up keeping the stakes a lot high. Season 1 was mainly focused on very much everyone trying to know exactly the mystery of what happened to the Guardians, and what the hell Omni-Man is, how is everybody going to try and stop this unstoppable monster that everybody has been trying to figure out how to do, because we get introduced to almost a lot of characters that could end up that would very much have their own little abilities, but they're nowhere near stronger than them. So it's just it's only a matter of time before someone ends up dying to something out there, what their plot line is going to be, what their characters are going end up as, which is honestly one of the many things I do like. Death in Invincible feels like it's almost doesn't mean matter, or that it actually does, because I think they find that perfect balance of wanting to bring back a character from the dead in an actual reasonable and realistic and much more better way. And when the character actually does end up dying, they actually end up trying to stay dead in most cases, because in season 2 one character was supposed to die, but they brought them back still alive for some reason. I don't know. I'm not gonna try to go into too much spoilers with that, but just letting you know out there, so that's a minor spoiler if you like. Their characters are absolutely fantastic. Each and every single one of them get their own little developments, and each of them get their own roles and exactly how to end up playing into all of them. The two that we end up focusing on a lot, and actually I got 3 because it's the main focus of the whole thing is Omni-Man, Mark Grayson, and Debbie, and all 3 of them go through a lot. They go through so much. Very much we kind of just been with Omni-Man, we kind of just trying to figure out the pieces as to what the hell's been kind of going on with him, how the whole trope with him is going to be going out there. We get things like Mark Grayson, where he always wanted to be a superhero and his father, but he's starting to realize that the superhero life that he ever wanted was now falling into the footsteps of his horrible father. It's the dream that he's always wanted, but now it's a living nightmare for him. Does he want to pursue, the superhero life that his dad would end up kind of putting him on, and he would end up becoming like his father, or pursue his college life with the love of his life, Amber, but that he can't because he would end up getting a lot of people that would end up needing him nowadays, and he would just have to keep on abandoning her. Mark honestly is a very fantastic character. You can very much tell that he is always conflicted with what he very much wants to try and do, and always wants to try and do the right thing, and he gets beat up so much out there. I just feel so bad for this man. honestly. Speaking with her, like Amber, that whole situation, I gotta say, I think was kind of always like meant in purpose that they were never going to be together. At least that's what the impression I always got from the whole thing. Yeah, I very much understand, you know, a lot of the hatred towards Amber, for the most part, for how she treated Invincible. Every character fantastic, and in season 2 they still keep that up and introduce a bunch of new threats. Like we have like a whole bunch of like, you know, other loose ends in from like the previous seasons that end up paying off a lot more in the other ones, such as like, you know, the stuff like the Sectoids of like the lost Martian man that was end up like, you know, being left in season 1, and we get like a new Martian that ends up coming straight to Earth, being Shapesmith. Angstrom Levy, you know, this like their take on like King the Conqueror and him kind of doing like multiversal travel, and like how he ends up tying in with like, you know, Mark Grayson, and how that ends up adding on to like Mark's character development, and like, you know, like what he very much has to like, you know, try and do and actually, you know, sacrifice. We see a much more different side of like Omni-Man. We get to see a lot more of Alan the Alien, which is absolutely the best character. I love Alan. Honestly, he's just one of my favorite characters out there, just by far. As well as like other developments from other characters out there, like Kate, Rudy, Monster Girl, and Rexplode, who was honestly much more of an asshole in season 1. But in season 2, he gets a much more better character development, especially when they came from like the Lizard League, who I like how that even in this show, they also kind of are like continuing this trend of like very like small, weak villains that you would think you would just be able to like beat within like an instance, but they end up surprising you, and they end up actually becoming an actual threat, which I kind of like, because it's kind of like also like in Across the Spider-Verse as well, with like the Spot, where like he was like meant to be like this unassuming, like just like very goofy little like villain that like you could just beat at any time at any point, and he's not much of a threat, until he ends up becoming an actual threat, and you kind of just like made the mistake of underestimating, you know, how powerful he can be if given enough given like, you know, the room and the space and like, you know, the time to do so. And as for the animation, I'm kind of like a bit torn on that, because like on one hand, I think the animation is very much nice. It's kind of limited in a lot of areas, because a lot of it very much does kind of like sometimes feel a little flat. But other times when it actually does need to, you know, do the like all the fighting and all that stuff, it gets it done very, very well. It ends up working. The whole blood and guts galore, and like all the violence that they could ever do is just right there, right from the center, and you feel every single second of it. Like when a character is like just dead, you just know for a fact they are just dead. There is no returning at that point, because like they make this world feel so established, like anything can happen that can almost kill somebody, and you kind of just now fear for like, you know, who's the next just to go out, like who's just next on the chopping block of anything. Like anything could literally kill these characters, and you just like try to like, pray for their safety in any sort of way possible. There's like two things I would say that season 2 I would have much more of a problem with. It's probably with Angstrom Levy, because he's not a bad character. He's an actually very much good and interesting villain, but I feel like him being kind of like a little absent for like most of the season didn't exactly do him very well. The fight with him and like, you know, Invincible wasn't bad. It was absolutely fantastic, and it very much did serve a point for like Mark's character development. But I feel like that he should have been a lot more built up for like most of the season, because the only times we do end up seeing him, credit scenes, or just like he's kind of just doing something like lurking in the shadows, kind of just waiting and biding his time. And the other reason I think also was a bit of a problem, because everybody kind of just knows this by now, but the mid-season break in season 2 that split like the whole thing in half, so we have like the first 4 episodes and the last 4 episodes was spanned out from like 2 months. I don't know why they did that. They did like, you know, making an article from the whole thing saying like, you know, that people like needed a break, because like it was too much for them. Like people need like, you know, sit down and process like the whole thing of like what just happened. And I was like, man, it's just like, okay, like I thought it was like a whole thing of like animation, like maybe need to take a little bit more time to do so, which like, you know, that's fine. I feel like this ended up killing its season, like, and killing a lot of the momentum, because like when they did came back, a lot of people were just like, oh yeah, I forgot, or like people just like didn't care all that much, because like they just did not know. But like Invincible is still holding out strong, even despite that. I mean, it didn't fall in, the JoJo's Part 6 Stone Ocean curse with what Netflix did. Like, God rest its soul. They literally killed that thing in, like, the moment it existed. Invincible is absolutely worth it. It is 8 episodes long every single season, and its final season is going to be coming out very much a long while. So I'm absolutely going to be looking forward for that, and I absolutely love everything in the show. It's literally not the best one, and it is no joke. It is a very much fantastic, amazing show that literally does everything to make a superhero story actually interesting, well crafted, and actually meaningful. So yeah, given the show Invincible a rating, I'm gonna give it a solid 95%, and that's really about it. So yeah, bye bye.